So we're basically going to run through just some new agent, kind of a 30,000 foot view of being a real estate agent. Some of you guys, like I know Heather's already closed a couple deals, so been around a little bit longer. But all this information is going to be good, and it's a good refresher, even if you've kind of already started learning this stuff. But we're going to break it apart into like 5 basic sections. We're going to talk about building your database. So if you're brand new and you're just now letting people know that you're an agent, or even if you've been around for a little while, still a good idea to keep building your database. So some ideas there. And obviously some of it we're going to have to filter just given the circumstances of, where we're at with all this virus stuff. Number 2, we're going to talk about working with a buyer. So just the steps. And once you start working with a buyer, we're going to talk about working with a seller. And then we're going to talk about transaction desk, which is where we cover all of our contracts. And then we're going to talk about just specific contracts. So I am going to, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about our database, and then me and Adam are just going to kind of go back and forth here. We're going to share our screens on the parts where we're talking about the MLS and transaction desk and stuff like that, so you can see specific details there. So, okay. So first thing, building your database. Obviously this is huge because even if you've been in a few months, the chances are you're still building your database. And so it's important to just here's some, I guess, ideas. But this is a long-term, just some mindset. This is a long-term business. All of you, I'm sure, plan on being real estate agents for the next few years or longer. And so you really have to think about things that way, because one side of what a lot of us bring to the table is just employee mindset. Like you come in, you do the work, and you get results and you get paid for it. Real estate's not that way. It's more on the business owner side where honestly, you do the work and sometimes it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years later before you see the results. And you just have to understand kind of that farmer mentality of sowing the seed up front and waiting for that harvest to come, at a later time. Sometimes you will get someone who's like, I'm actually ready to buy and sell right now. And those are awesome. But as you're building your database and you're talking to people, just think of this as long-term. Okay. So first thing we always talk about is friends and family. That's the first place you start. Most of you guys have probably already done this, but however you normally communicate with those people, call, text, Facebook message, whatever your normal communication with your family and friends, start there and reach out to those people. And that introduction to real estate can be a little bit more, I don't know if asking for the sale like upfront is the right verbiage, but I mean, you could say, hey, I'm a brand new real estate agent. I'm excited about this. I would really love your help on, getting connections with people who are looking to buy and sell. Who do you know that's looking to buy and sell? And also, do you mind even reaching out to some people that you know and let them know that, hey, my brother, my sister, however the relationship is a real estate agent. Have you thought about buying and selling? Social media, we've got templates for this. I'm more than happy to send you the message that I used, or, essentially what it is. I actually went through, hang on. And I just redid this again because now I've been in for 3 years and I'm going back through my Facebook. I literally printed off all of my Facebook friends. So you can actually go on Facebook, go into settings, and export all of your friends list. Okay. And I did this simply as a checklist. So I start on one page and I go through and I send each person a Facebook message. I did this when I got started. And I don't know the exact stats, but I think I closed 6 or 7 deals just from people that I messaged on Facebook. And that's just a personal experience for me because I had a decent group of friends on Facebook. Adam's experience was a little bit different. He had a lot more people in his actual phone connections, so he reached out that same message through text. So it really just kind of depends, but social media for me was huge. So I encourage you, even if you don't know the person very well. I closed a deal with a girl that I had never met before, but I was friends on Facebook. And so you just never know. Most of the time, it's a generic message. Sometimes I try to personalize it, but it basically just says, "Hey, I just got into real estate with a great team in Alpha Realty. You know, you can use our stats or whatever if you want to, but I'm looking." You let them know your goal. I'm looking to help. My goal at first year was looking to help 30 families buy or sell this year. Do you know of anybody who's looking to buy or sell? The reason I don't ask them if they are is because it kind of takes the pressure away. And if they are looking to buy or sell, they will tell you. But if you say, if you know of anyone, then it's like, then it gets their brain turned and we're like, actually, I was just thinking about it. My cousins want to buy a house. And so you never know. And then obviously you can go back through a year later or 2 years later and re-message those people. But phone contacts, like I already mentioned that. Sporting groups or school associations. This is something like, I know Heather was super involved, Drury, ladies basketball. I know you've got a lot of really good connections there. Even if you don't know the people within specifically in that group, it's still a common point to like start the conversation. So like, I was talking with Terrence the other day, and Terrence is really big into, he likes health food stuff, and like he just enjoys that. So he actually went out and found 4 or 5 Facebook groups that are local that talk a lot about health and eating whole foods and stuff like that. He joined those groups, and he's not on there like, "Hey guys, I'm a realtor, buy a house." You know, he's like, he starts just to engage with them on the topic, and then that leads to the conversation about real estate. So, you know, if you've got any background in, like Tyler, I know you like fishing, hunting. I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff on Facebook you could be a part of for connecting with people. You know, and we've talked about even selling farmland and stuff like that. You know, that's a good connection with some of those guys. If you're looking, I mean, think about this, you could post in there, if you're looking to buy some hunting land, you know, like, you know, I can help you. And so you can connect with people that way.
Okay.
Church, obviously, this is kind of I say this delicately because we never want to use church for the purpose of building our business. But I will tell you, it is like, it's a great resource because you are intimately connecting with people. And so they trust you, and, you know, it's a great way to utilize that. You know, I did quite a bit of business through just my small group, you know, just because they know me, they trust me, they, you know, so that's a good option. Previous employments, we had a guy who went back to his job and he took donuts there a few different times, you know, and connected with coworkers. Join a networking group. And like I said, filter all this because there's not a whole lot we can do right now, but join a networking group. That has been huge for me and Adam both. We actually both kind of started our own networking groups. Adam started a breakfast club when he first got in with just, it's industry exclusive. So it's with people who specifically, like, there's one insurance guy, there's one real estate agent, there's one, you know, whatever. And once a week, meet at 7:30. So then whenever I got started, he's like, "Hey, start a networking group." So that's what I did. I went out, just people that I already had connections with, or people that other people had connections with, to start this networking group. And that's been huge. I have a lender in there that I use for all the deals that I can. I've got an attorney, life insurance, you know, printer and Pearson Kelly, they're in there. So, I mean, there, you can start a networking group. I would start maybe planning that for the future. And if not, there's lots of networking opportunities if you don't want to start your own. There's chamber stuff. There's the Rotary Club, Rotaract, if you're under 30. There's all kinds of stuff. So networking groups are huge. The more people who know your real estate agent, the better. Let's see, Million Cups. You guys ever been to 1 Million Cups? It's a free Wednesday mornings at the art museum. They have kind of, not kind of like Shark Tank, I guess, but they're not really looking for investors. They basically have 2 businesses present every Wednesday morning from 9 to 10. And then they have networking before that. And what I've told people is it's just a good way to go out and network. Practice having conversations with people. If you're not used to doing that, which a lot of people aren't, as far as business goes, it's a good way to go out. It's free. You just shake hands, get to know them, ask questions. So that's an option. Real estate investor groups, there's all kinds of stuff there. Open houses, once again, can't really do those right now, but those are huge. It's a great way to build your business. I'll have to look back and see. A large percentage of my business from the previous years have come from open houses. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, 18% came in 2018, 18.6% came from open houses. 2017 was 24%. So a lot of my business came from open houses. And basically the reason that's so good is because people walking in there typically don't have an agent. If they did have an agent, they would schedule a showing to go see it. So a lot of times you can have that conversation, build the relationship there. So open houses are huge. In the meantime, we can do virtual open houses just to build up your following on social media. So if you don't have any listings or you want to do a virtual open house at one of the other agents within Alpha, you can do that. Basically, a virtual open house is you just have your phone. You can go on Facebook Live. People can tune in and ask questions about the house. You just walk around with your phone. Door knock, obviously that's another thing we can't do right now, but that's huge in neighborhoods, walking around. I always door knock with a purpose, so for example, I always knock in a neighborhood where I've sold a house, I'm holding an open house, I've just listed a house, something along those lines. That way you're not just knock, knock, hey, I'm a realtor, ready to sell your house, you actually knock on the door and say, hey, I just want to let you know, we actually just sold your neighbor's house or just went under contract on it. We had quite a few buyers. It sold pretty quick. If you're ever looking to buy or sell, I'd love to help you, and that way you're actually kind of giving them a reason why you're there. Once again, as a brand new agent, you haven't sold any houses, or you can use any of ours. I could give you a slew of different neighborhoods that you could go to and say, hey, we just sold a house right up the road. If you're looking, it sold pretty quick, had multiple buyers, whatever, or we're getting ready to hold an open house or whatever. So door knock, once again, once things clear up, that's a good thing to do. And last one I'll cover, and then Adam, you can jump in, but take people out to lunch and coffee. Like I said at the beginning, this is a long-term relationship business. It's huge to have that connection with people, even if, it doesn't come, even if they're not looking for buying and selling right away, you build some of those really good relationships and you add value to their life, and they're going to think of you whenever they hear someone looking to buy or sell. Once again, it just takes time to kind of build up these connections, but hopefully that kind of gives you a slew of different options. What I recommend and what Adam told me to begin with is do all of them right up front. Do all of them. Like, try everything. Get on social media. Even if you don't have a huge following, get on social media. Reach out to friends and family. Open houses. Join a networking group. Join Facebook groups. I mean, just try it all and then figure out what works for you, where you're seeing the most success, and then spend more time and effort pouring the gas on that one, if that makes sense. So, Adam, anything you want to add on building your database?
No, so like Aaron said up front, to me, this is all about mindset and having the right mindset when you're building these relationships, because everything else we're going to cover today, honestly, doesn't really matter if you don't do this first part at all, because you have to have people to put in the filter. And it's just about making connections with people. And most people make the mistake of thinking that when they start real estate, that they have to stop doing what they were doing and figure out a new way to live their life to reach people. And that's a false mindset, because, I mean, you think about how many people you know or know you right now, and how did you meet those people, whether it was work or school or church or whatever it was. That's how you need to build your business, is figure out where you kind of naturally spend your time. And it's so much easier for you to build those relationships with those people. And yeah, you do want to start branching into more opportunities and networking groups and all this stuff. But to me, I think one of the most important things, as far as if you want to build a long-term business, like Aaron said, you have to realize that most of the people you talk to are not going to be clients or a deal right now. Most of the people you're going to talk to are going to turn into a deal down the road. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3 years down the road. And once you make that connection with them, literally the only thing you have to do is stay in contact with them. And that's the part you can control. You can have a really follow-up process to where when it comes time for them to actually buy a house, you are their go-to agent because you've talked to them more than any other agent has in the last year or two. You know, and there's so many automated systems that you can use to help with that, really it just kind of becomes a game of how many people can you put into the filter. And like Aaron said, sometimes they will surprise you and they'll say, actually, yeah, we're looking to buy a house right now. And that is great, but the thought process really has to be, hey, I'm going to be your agent in 3 years from now when it comes time to sell. On average, 20% of people will move on a yearly basis. So people stay in their home 5 years on average. So if you think about every 5 people you talk to, one of them is going to buy or sell this year. Okay. And that'll kind of make you sick when you start realizing how many deals you're missing, with people that you're talking to. Okay. The other thing here, and then we can move on. In my opinion, I don't think your business, to have a successful big business, I don't think it can be just based off of your efforts. Okay. What I mean by that is you need, I always call it kind of a sales force out there trying to find you deals. That's the power of a networking group, especially a smaller networking group where everyone really has good relationships with everyone else and is really trying to build each other's businesses. So if you get in a networking group with 5 or 10 people who really kind of link arms and say, all right, we're going to move forward. Any person that you hear is looking to buy or sell a house, give them my card. That is so powerful because now you have 10 people out there who are listening for conversations of people who want to buy or sell a house. And every time that comes up, they're going to give them your card. Parents, siblings, friends, whatever it is. My parents have done so many deals for me just by talking to people, and my mom talks to everyone, and it always comes up that they're going to buy or they're going to sell, and she hands them my card. And I mean, literally, it's pretty crazy. I should pay her more, but
I need to get her license just on referral status.
Yeah, that might hurt my business too much. So. I tried to talk him into it once, but so anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought, but you have to have several different avenues or streams that are feeding your business. So one of those avenues, like Aaron said, is cold calling and door knocking and open houses. But what if you stopped doing that? Where does your business come from? And if you still have other people and other avenues that are, trying to get you business, then that's when you start growing exponentially. And then all you have to do is have a really good system for past clients, which leads to referrals and more deals in the future. So any questions about how to build your database? Got a question from Mr. Chase.
Not about how to build it, but how often should a follow-up be without being annoying? And how long should we wait to expect feedback from reaching out to people and like real time, so we don't just get discouraged on this?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a great question because I've actually had quite a few people like, hey, I don't want to be that annoying salesperson that's like, hey, buy a house, buy a house, buy a house. You know your people that you're talking to better than anybody else. But what I would say is find ways. So let's say you initially reach out to somebody on Facebook, and you send them a message and you don't hear anything back. Another way that you can stay top of mind is by commenting and liking their posts, or interacting with them outside of just asking for real estate business. So for example, if you're talking to a group of people and maybe they did respond like, yeah, we're going to buy and sell, but it might be a year or something like that, or two. Typically what I do is I say, hey, that's no problem. Great. And I kind of put them on like a monthly schedule of actually reaching out to them about real estate. But then I try and interact with them in between then, just by like wishing happy birthdays, liking on their posts, commenting on their posts. If you know them outside, because of something else, maybe church related or sports related or something like that, like texting them about that stuff. I think that's good. I think it's hard to say that there's a black and white, like this is how often you should reach out to somebody. Like I said, because you know that relationship a little bit better. But I think monthly, if they've kind of told you, hey, yeah, we might buy or sell in the next year, I think monthly's fine. If they don't respond at all, maybe you wait a couple months to respond again. I don't know if that answers your question. It's a little vague, but
yeah, that was great.
They say the rule of thumb is if it's someone who's not actively like an A client, every fourth conversation should be about real estate. The other three should be not related to real estate. So if you're doing like a monthly follow-up system, really once a quarter are you only talking real estate. And even then, I don't think it's, hey, are you going to buy a house right now? Are you going to sell a house right now? It could literally be, hey, I was just driving by your house because I listed one down the street. I just thought about you guys, And
we're talking about the market or something,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
House are still selling.
So here was always my mindset when I got started on communication. For every deal that you lose for over communicating, you'll lose 15 deals for under communicating. Okay. So what I mean by that is you think you're being annoying or too aggressive or communicating too much, and 90% of the time you're not. Okay. Most time you just psych yourself out and tell yourself that so you don't have to make the phone call or get in contact with them. Now it has to be tasteful as far as how you're communicating with them. But if it's an A buyer or an A seller that you're trying to list or convert or get them to use you, again, there's different rules on this, but whoa.
Hang on. Tyler, I'm going to mute you.
Tyler, there's two of you. That's a great example of over communication right there.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, I just had to I couldn't hold my phone that long.
Something else that's important is the right expectations. We used to call it BAM fam, which is book a meeting from a meeting. So if you talk to someone, don't just get off the phone and be like, all right, well, I'll see you later. But if you're trying to, convert them to use you as their agent, let them know what the expectations or what to expect as far as your communication, and say, hey, are you okay if I follow up with you guys here in 2 weeks just to kind of see where you're at? Or, hey, I know you're thinking about selling in the spring. Is it okay if I give you a call in, March to talk about that? Well, between January and March, you send them an email, you send them a card, a text if you have that relationship, and then you call them in March. And, like Aaron said, you are top of their mind. And with social media, everything's changed with social media, and I won't get into that. I'll let Aaron cover that. But I didn't have a Facebook account for 4 years or so after I got into real estate. So it was a little different there as far as how, it's not that funny, Heather. As far as how I built my business. But yes. Does that answer your question, Chase?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, more questions on database, because again, this is the biggest factor on if you'll be successful or not, because everything else you can learn as you go. The one thing we can't do for you though is hand you a lead essentially, or find the people who want to buy or sell a house. And so the difference maker between huge successful agents and agents that do a few deals a year, and that is 100% their database and how many people they're talking to and how many people know that they're an agent. So to me, this is the most important part. Everything else, if you bring a buyer or a seller, we can walk through and within a couple of deals, you'll learn the process and the paperwork and all that stuff. So more questions on database?
Hey, I got a quick question.
Yep.
All right. So when you're, new as an agent, maybe you don't have a big following on Facebook and you don't want to necessarily go out there and try to, you want to post things as a new agent to try to get likes and shares, and then that leads into new friends, things of that sort. What type of thing would you, right out the gate?
You cut out there for a second. So what types of things would you post? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just being a new agent, not having a bunch of listings, things of that sort. I know
Right.
I like and share, but you're trying to gain new friends versus going
Sure.
out there and
Sure.
adding friends on Facebook.
Yeah. So as a general rule, as far as social media goes, there's this idea about content marketing, and honestly, Heather could probably speak more to this. But content marketing is essentially providing people with content that they're searching for. I think the 80-20 rule is kind of accurate here. And that would be like 80% of the content that you post on Facebook needs to be stuff that your friends or whatever would actually be interested in. And that can be stuff just about like you. It can be stuff about just interesting topics, not necessarily like new listings or like specific real estate stuff. It can be things about Springfield. It could be things about your church. I mean, like things like that are shareable content. And then 20% of what you post should be like specific to real estate. Okay. So, obviously I know it's a hard balance sometimes, because if you don't post a lot on Facebook, it's like, man, I got to come up with all these different things to post, which I get it. Like, don't get hung up and overwhelmed by that. But what I would say is, there's things that I post on the Alpha page that's, shareable content and stuff that you can share. That's easy, click and share stuff. But I would also try and balance that with just things that interest you. Things about your family. I was talking with, I think it was Terrence yesterday, that was talking about just like things about his kids and his family and the whole food stuff and all of that, just trying to post stuff that people are going to engage with. And so the other thing is, you can go out and add friends on Facebook. Like, don't be ashamed to go out and because it tells you people you might know. And so, it's not a bad idea to go in and add some, if you're trying to build your database on there, that's not a bad idea to go on there and add friends. Like I said, as long as you're engaging with them in the correct way of just adding value, posting interesting things. Like I said, things about your family, things about the outdoors, things about your church, things about, whatever. And then also sharing stuff with new listings, and you can use our stuff. I mean, there's a lot of agents that share new listings I post on Alpha, and people in their sphere of influence think they're their listings, and that's fine. Like, you share it like, wow, you're doing great. I saw you post a bunch of listings, like they don't know any different. So it's definitely not a bad idea to share some of that stuff.
I have a funny story on that.
Yeah.
Because that video that I posted on Facebook, I had some people text me and be like,
yeah,
wow, you're getting big and successful. And I'm like, I don't even have my license.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
But I didn't tell them, I just, yeah, thank you,
Perception is reality.
Absolutely.
Perception is reality. So, feel free to share our content and use our stats. Like I posted that on Alpha about us selling 45 houses in the last 30 days. That just is credibility for you, because it's going out to your people.
to me, social media is just proof that you're a realtor, especially with people who don't know you. And right now, with the Facebook Live walkthroughs and virtual tours, I mean, every listing that we have, you know, if you have a few hours or something, just get with the listing agent in our office and go to the house and do a quick walkthrough on social media. And people are going to think you're listing houses left and right, you know, and you just say, hey, our office just listed this one, or, I mean, give a shout out to the agent. It doesn't matter. Most people, I mean, probably won't get that far in the video anyways, but.
Because you're looking for buyers
you know.
anyway. So, you know, if you're doing an open house like that. So, you know, someone might reach out to you and say, hey, just FYI, I'm looking to buy a house, you know, or whatever. So any other questions before we move on? If you think of something, let me know. Okay, next section we're going to talk about. So that, like Adam said, that's a big part of this is building your database, because you got to have people coming in the top of the filter. And, you know, some people are going to take a little bit longer to buy houses, sell houses, whatever, but you're constantly building the database. One thing I will mention here, it is so important as you're brand new to keep track of all of these contacts. Now, we have a CRM that you can subscribe to, Nutshell. You know, between you and me, it's not the easiest program in the world. I'm kind of looking for something else, more specifically for real estate. But I'm a spreadsheet guy. I'm kind of a nerd. Adam's a sticky note guy. He's a big nerd. So really, it's totally up to you. Like, I love spreadsheets. I love filling them all out and all that crazy stuff. So what I did when I got started is I literally just created a spreadsheet that said contact, you know, phone number, email address, date of when I reached out to them, you know, are they interested, and then a place to put like notes and stuff like that. And so I would just kind of go down through that list, and as I talked to people and as they expressed a little bit of interest, I would put them on there, because it's easy now, right now, where you guys are all at brand new. This is the easiest time to start that, keeping track of your database, because a year or two from now, if you haven't done a good job, I mean, there's low hanging fruit there of people that will use other agents because you didn't follow back up with them. And trust me, I know Adam knows, because we've seen on Facebook when they bought a house and you're like, I talked to you first like a year ago, you know. And I think, Heather, haven't you already experienced it?
Yeah, 2 times. So once I was getting my license, and it was my sister's college roommate. She was like, are you getting your license? And I was, yeah, I should have it like December, January, whatever. She's like, oh, cool. Like, me and Mitch are going to be looking for a house right around then. I'll let you know. I'm like, cool. And then we have another mutual friend at church, turns out. And she was like, Heather, did you see Kayla's house? And I was like, Kayla who? And she's like, well, Kayla, you know, this girl. I was like, she bought a house? Like, that was my first one. And then the second one was this girl. She actually reached out to me because she had seen like my post that I had passed, like I had gotten my license on Facebook. And so she reached out to me, and same thing, like she was about to get engaged. They were looking for a house, and she told me that they wouldn't until like April. So I had like multiple conversations with her, talked her through the whole lending process. Like, I was on the phone with Stephen Thomas, like asking him questions, and he was telling me, and I was like sending them to her, pretending like I knew. And like connected her with the lender, the whole thing, like followed up pretty much monthly or like bi-monthly. And then she posted on Facebook the other day at this super nice house that she bought. And I'm like, what? I did everything I possibly could. But whatever, I just commented on, oh, congrats, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, that's an example of you doing the work and staying in communication.
Yeah.
You still bought with someone else. Which,
yeah, I feel like I just keep telling myself maybe she just like went to an open house, you know, there, and just like bought it, like, you know, that listing agent or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to make myself feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you're right. You're not going to get every deal.
Yeah.
And you can work with someone for a year and they call. I actually just had that happen as well. I had a referral from someone a year ago, showed them a couple houses.
Oh, wow.
They're like, we're going to wait, you know, for a while. I'm like, hey, I totally get it. And I tried to stay up communication with them, and they called the listing agent directly and bought a little house on, you know, or whatever. And so it's like, you know, you feel like you do everything right. And it's just sometimes you use other people. So
Oh yeah, I'm like, it's gonna happen. I might as well get used to it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good learning experience too, because then it's like, okay, if any, what was something I could have done to keep
Yeah.
the deal? You know, could I communicated better or more specifically? Like, for example, hey, I'm going to set you up with a search on the MLS. When you see something that you want to look at, call me first. I'll schedule it, you know, things like that. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it is
for sure.
a learning experience. Let's transition right into working with a buyer. And so we'll kind of go through these. We're going to talk about working with a buyer, and these are just kind of highlight bullet points, things that basically the steps you would normally take with a buyer. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule, but Adam, do you want to take this one? You want me
to? Sure, I can start it.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the first things you want to do when you're working with a buyer is just have a buyer's consultation, as far as sitting down, kind of getting to know them, figure out what they're looking for, their situation, setting the right expectations with them as far as what they're searching for. And this just comes with knowing the market, which is why you get a lessee for a 4-bedroom house in Nixa under 130,000. I mean, set the right expectations. Don't say, hey, we have tons of options for you to choose from. And it's just a conversation, making sure that they like you and you like them and all that stuff. So the very first thing we always have people do is get pre-qualified, especially in a hot market, because what ends up happening if they don't is they find the right house, then they call the lender, and it takes a day or two and the house is gone by the time they get done with that. So if they're serious about buying, have them get pre-qualified. And if they do get pre-qualified, it tells you that they are serious. And so that's kind of a test right there, but give them a couple lenders, again, figure out what type of loan, price point, and get all that information to the lender. And also some lines or some scripts, because whenever you're talking to someone, you don't want to say, hey, what can you afford, you know, or how much money do you have? Or so one of the things I always say is, hey, get pre-qualified with the lender, because that'll tell us what you're comfortable buying. Because just because they are pre-approved for $200,000 doesn't mean that they want to buy a house for $200,000. And so you tell them, get pre-approved. There's so many loan options. Figure out if they're first-time home buyers or, you know, government loan, USDA, VA, whatever it is. The next thing is just really figuring out what they're looking for. So we have buyer consultation sheets in the office. If you want to use them, I kind of just use a piece of paper. But I mean, it's just the basics as far as, you know, school district, location, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, you know, lot size. So they want to be in a subdivision, they want land. And so you just get as many details as you can. And what this is going to allow you to do is set up that search on the MLS. I'll tell you, this is one of the most powerful things and easy things whenever you're working with, you know, several buyers. I would get as many people as you possibly can set up with automatic searches on the MLS. And you can set it up to where it emails them immediately. So they may get 3 or 4 emails per day as far as when a house falls in the search parameters that you have set up. If a new agent lists it and put it on the MLS, it'll email it to your client immediately from you. So what it looks like is you're sitting in front of your computers, sending them emails all day long. You can do it daily, you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly. And so it goes back to the over communication or under communication, just depends where they're at in the buying process. If they're an A buyer and trying to buy a house this month, do it ASAP. Every time a new listing comes in the market, you know, get it to them. You know, if they will buy when the right house comes on the market, but they don't have to, you know, maybe weekly or daily if it's the right person. But people love looking at houses. Even if they're not looking to buy a house, people just love looking at houses. And so literally, I mean, tell people, hey, you know, what if I set you up with a search of just high-end homes, $1 million plus? People love looking at that stuff. And then what it does is they see your name more than anyone else. Aaron's got a cool story about this. Tell him that one about the, whatever it was, a year and a half. You met them at an open house once and you set them up with a search, and a year and a half later they called you to buy a house or something like that.
Yeah, that's the story. Good job.
Thanks.
I'm just kidding.
So that's just proof.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like, it's, once again, we talk about just ways of opening up lines of communication and staying top of mind awareness. This is something, if you have a decent conversation with someone, for example, at an open house, and you get their email address, you find out kind of what they're looking for, you go in the MLS, and actually, I'm going to share my screen real fast, and I'm just going to show you how to do that. That way you guys can kind of have a good idea. All right. You guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So once you log into the MLS,
Click on the current clients. Maybe we can get some contacts there.
no. Yeah, don't be stealing my stuff. I'm just kidding. So what I like to do when I'm setting up a search is I'll just go up here to quick search, and it'll pull up a map of all the residential listings that's currently on the market. Now you can break this down several different ways. Let's say, for example, someone's like, hey, I'm looking for a house in, Willard School District. It needs to have at least 3 bedrooms. I'd like to stay under 180,000, whatever. Over here on the left-hand side, here's all the parameters. And you can get super specific. So we'll talk about this when you list a house, but when you're filling out that MLS data sheet, when you list a house and all the little things like, 2-car garage, does it have an outbuilding and all that stuff, that's what these parameters are over here. So if someone's looking for a 2-car garage, you can actually add a field, you can type garage, and there's 2-car detached garage, 2-car attached garage, 3+, whatever. So you can get as specific as you want. Most of the time what I do is I try to get pretty broad, I guess. So if they say Willard Schools, 2 different ways you can do that. You can either zoom in to Willard and draw a circle, but if they're very specific for Willard Schools, you can also just select high school, Willard, and then it'll narrow it down. Okay. So what you do is you select Willard Schools, and then you would select, let's say, total bedrooms, a minimum of 3 bedrooms, a minimum of 2 bathrooms, list price max 180,000, and there are 19 options for sale, which is actually higher than I thought there would be. It defaults to being houses that are active with contingency, or active short sale, which you shouldn't have to change that. So let's just say, and let's say square footage, they want a minimum of 1,400 square feet. So now there's 13 listings that fit that, okay? So let's say you want to set somebody up with a search for this. You go through, you type all that out. You go up here to save search. Type in the search name. I'm just going to call this test home search. I'm going to add my contact. Hang on just a second. Okay, so I'm going to add my contact. So let's say it's a new contact, someone I've never met before. Display name, Hingle McCringleberry. Okay, contact email. Obviously, you just type in their email. I'll just use mine for now. Create a portal. Okay, so what this is, you know how like on Zillow, you can create an account on Zillow, and if you save listings and stuff like that, it's kind of like your account. That's what this is. So I actually always create them a portal, and I invite this customer to the portal. And the reason I do that is, once again, it's just another way that they can go in and create an account, and hopefully they go on and save these houses and not houses on realtor.com or whatever. Okay, then you just click save and add subscription. Saving search contact, and then you fill, this is where you talk about the frequency and all that kind of stuff. So, the subscription name is subscription George home search, whatever. You can have it send a notification of new listings to you and to the selected contact, and send me an email when the contact clicks the link. This right here, make sure this is always clicked. because it's an awesome way to reach out to somebody. If you get an email the next morning that somebody opened up your email and looked at those houses, boom. Now you can reach out to them and say, well, you can spoil the surprise and you can say, hey, I saw that you saw my email. But most of the time what I do is I know they looked at them. And so sometimes I play dumb. Like, hey, just want to make sure you're getting my emails with some new listings. If you see any that you want to take a look at, let me know. I know they're getting them. I know they're seeing them, but that's a good way to do that. You can add multiple contacts here. So if there's a husband and wife, you can choose the frequency. So they can get an email every day. That's what it defaults to. Most of the time it's at like 10 o'clock at night, 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night for all the listings of that day. You can break it apart. If they're not super like, they're like, we'll probably buy or whatever in the next, year or two. A lot of times I'll break this down to like 2 days a week or something like that. I'm okay with it being quite a few because it's just an email. They can opt out of it if they don't want to. They can delete the email, whatever. But once again, it's just top of mind awareness. And then this is the email that will go to them every single time. So you want to keep this super generic. A lot of times what I do is I just copy the home search part and I just call it that, test home search. And then I just say something like, here are some listings that just hit the market, or I keep it super generic because they're going to get the same email every single time. Okay. So that's how, and then you just click save and they're set up with a subscription. And then you can go in and, so let's say you set somebody up with a subscription and then they want to change it, or they're like, hey, we decided we also were looking at Ash Grove or whatever. You can go into your contact management and then like find whoever's getting the emails. So Brandon, let's say, and you can switch out contact information. You can look at their activity. Here's their saved search, subscription Baker Home Search 2. You can delete this. You can add a new subscription. You can click on it and change the frequency of it, email, all that kind of stuff. So you can edit any of that. You can also get to it by going to menu, saved searches. Here's all the saved searches. So there's that Baker Home Search 2. You can click on that. Oh no, that actually shows. Yeah, and then edit search. And you can change the parameters there. Okay. So that's a real quick how to set somebody up with a home search on the MLS. If you need any more help with that, let me know. But default, I would try to set that up as soon as possible with people. Maybe it is after that first consultation. Maybe it's after a good conversation at an open house. Maybe it's a conversation through Facebook. Tyler, I know you came, sat in on whenever I sat down with those clients for you.
Right.
Kind of pick their brain what they were looking for. And then I set them up with a search, which they're still getting those emails, by the way, even though they got their family's land. So I'll probably keep it on there until they opt out of it.
I would, because they are now not doing that. They found a house down W Highway in Ozark they want to buy, but they don't want, the home seller doesn't want real estate agents involved. So I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but if it doesn't,
let me call them.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, there we go. Moving on. Scheduling showings. You want to jump back in, Adam?
Sure. Do you want to bring your screen back up?
Sure.
Or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, no, I can do it.
Okay. So let's say you go through all this and someone's ready to go out and look at houses. They have 4 or 5 houses that they want to look at. Either way, as far as if they send them to you or if you have found them for them, what you want to do is pull all the houses up here on the MLS. So let's just say these are the 2 houses that they want to see that Aaron's on right now. So what you can do is, I always go to the map view, just like Aaron is, look at how long it's going to take you from get to one house to the next. And then if you click on the detail for the listing, you can scroll down to the bottom. It'll show you the showing instructions. So this is vacant, show lockbox. So you don't have to call the agent to set this one up, which is great. It's easy to show. The other one is easy to show, call the owner. So then the phone to show is right there above it. So typically what I do is I'll give like an hour or so per showing. So if I'm going to start at 11 o'clock and I'm going to meet at the house in Fair Grove, so I'll, figure out if they're going to ride with you or meet at the office or meet at the house, and then just call your clients and say, let's meet at the house at Fair Grove at 11 o'clock. Then I would call the owners of the house on Bodark based on their showing instructions and say, hey, this is Adam with Alpha Realty. Can I show your house tomorrow between 11:30 and 12:30? Figuring we'll be at the house there in Fair Grove for 20 or 30 minutes and then 20, 30 minutes of drive time. Instead of saying right at 12, it gives you a little bit of a window. If you have 7 or 8 houses, sometimes it takes a little bit of planning and coordinating as far as getting it all set up and scheduled. But and then I would print off these MLS sheets, and I'd click on the both public and private reports. And then the public one is for your clients and the private one is for you. Then I always put them in the order that we're seeing them, and then give them to the clients once we start looking at the houses. And I tell them, whenever we get to the first house, I always tell them to take notes, because they'll forget the details of every house, especially if they're looking at a lot of properties. Write down things that they like, that what they don't like, because I always tell them that helps me learn what they're looking for. So be honest. You're not going to offend me. But I also tell them, hey, if you know that this is not the right house for you, let's just scratch it off our list and move on to the next one. Nothing's more frustrating than someone who spends an hour at a house, and the second they walk in, they're like, oh, this is not going to work. But let's go ahead and walk through it and nitpick and tear the house apart while we're here. So having control of your buyers is really important. And then what I always tell them is, hey, always have your favorite house, and then if we see a lot of houses, you can have 2 or 3 favorites, but I always say, I always try and make them laugh and have fun when we're at the showing. So once we get done with the first one, I always ask them, is this your favorite so far? And they always laugh. So you can use that if you need to, but so it's not your job to sell them the house. It's your job to guide them and be honest. And while you're there, be looking for stuff at the house, things that need to be repaired, things you need to ask for in the contract, because you can't assume your buyers are going to know that things have to be asked for. It's also important why you know the contract, so you know what you can and what you can't ask for. If there's a, above ground pool that you want removed, you have to ask for that in the contract. And so you have to pay attention. You have to walk through the houses as well, take notes, ask them questions, things like that. And Aaron, jump in at any point if you need to.
Well, I was going to
pretty
say,
simple as far as.
Yeah, like when you're first getting started, I highly recommend that you print these off in advance before the showings and read over them. Read all the agent remarks. So if you look here on the page, this agent remark, the buyer's not going to see that on their sheet, but you will see it. And sometimes there's some good information on there. Sometimes it's pretty generic. Like this one's buyer to do their own due diligence with regard to exact square footage. Square footage was taken off the appraisal. Sunroom is included as square footage stated. No commissions paid on seller concessions. Okay. None of that really is needed for the buyer, but it's good for you to know. It's also good to get familiar where things are, because you'll be walking through the house and they'll say, hey, what's the taxes on this? Well, it's listed right here. So you know exactly where to go and look for this stuff. Hey, is this in Willard School District or Ash Grove School District? Well, it's right up here, Ash Grove School District. And it gives you a better idea of what's on here. Will this go USDA? Well, you need to know that before you even schedule it. Because if they're looking for USDA and this doesn't go USDA, then you don't even need to see it. Because I've done that before. I've scheduled showings.
And you can search.
Yeah, you can search just for homes that will go USDA or VA. But they've sent me a listing. Like I've had a client send me a listing like, hey, can we go take a look at this? Like, yeah, great. We schedule the showing, we go look at it. They're trying to get a VA loan and the house won't even go VA. And I'm like, oh, I just not only wasted my time, their time, but I kind of look like an idiot because I should have known that before I scheduled it. So things to look for. All right.
Okay. Any questions on that? We're kind of flying through that, but that's the easy fun part of it there, as far as going out and showing houses. And don't try and impress them acting like you know everything. I always tell them, hey, these are not my houses. I don't know everything about these houses, but if I don't know it, I'll get the answer. I'll call the agent, I'll look it up, whatever you guys need. So don't have this pressure on yourself that because you're a realtor now, you have to know everything about every house that you walk in. It's not true. And they don't expect that. They want you to be honest. And they do, though. At some point, they will ask your opinion. Hey, what do you think about that house? You know, and I try not to give them my opinion too much. I mean, I will, but, you know, more so facts as far as the property, and if it was listed before, if it sold before. If they have any interest at all, definitely do a CMA on that house. That way you know that it's priced appropriately and that you are guiding them correctly as far as what their offer should be. Because the one thing you don't want to happen is they buy that house and then 3 months later they call you to sell it for them. And then you go back in there and you're like, guys, you overpaid for this house. You know, like that's what we don't want to happen. So that part does just take some, you know, guidance from you towards them as far as, hey, here's the deal. I mean, this house is priced appropriately, but you're paying retail for it. And so, you know, if you buy it at $200,000 and you call me in 3 months, it's, you know, unless if the market doesn't go, you know, up and it's not. So just know that going into it. That way you kind of lay the groundwork on, you know, them paying for the house or getting a good deal or something like that. Okay. Any questions on that part? Okay, so you have a buyer, you've taken them out and showed them, you know, 50 houses, and they finally decide that they want to buy one. Now what? Well, now you get to write an offer, which is the really fun part. So we'll kind of jump into Transaction Desk here in a little bit, but and show you how to do that. But at that point there, you pull all the information. You make sure that they have the seller's disclosure statements that are attached to the listing. If they have any questions, you contact the listing agent and ask those questions. We always get utilities, double check tax records, double check school districts. If it's on if it's on land, check and see if there's a survey on that land. Get on the assessor's website and pull the map up. Just as much information as you possibly can, because you know, sinkholes, floodplains, things like that. Don't just take the listing agent's word that there's no sinkholes or it's not on a floodplain. This is why people, buyers are hiring you to be their agent, is to make sure this stuff is checked and covered, so they don't buy a house and then come to find out it's sitting on a sinkhole or something like that. So as much information as you can. You pull all the documents that are required to write an offer. You either sit down or do it virtually. Right now, do it virtually. I try and do it over email anyways. So what I'll do is I'll call them. I'll go through the paperwork. I'll ask them all the questions as far as offer. And every single time I'll say, what do you guys want to offer? And they'll say, what do you think? You know, and then again, I'll just walk them through it as far as, you know, they're priced at $200,000. It's 2 days on the market. You know, here's the comps that we polled. It should be priced between 190 and 200,000. So if you get this anywhere below, you know, what they're asking, it's, you know, I feel like it's a decent deal for you. Or sometimes it's not, and you have to tell them that. Just go through the contract, write it up, and at that point you can email it to them to sign. If you're going to do it electronically like that, I always tell them to call me when they're looking at it so I can walk them through it. You really want to explain the contracts to your clients. Don't be afraid of them asking questions. Most people don't want to go through the contract because they're scared that they're going to ask them questions and they're not sure how to answer it. If that is the case, we're more than happy to, you know, be there with you and, you know, do a 3-way call or a conference call or whatever it is. But you want to make sure that they understand what they're signing. And then if they're good with it, they can sign it electronically, email it to the other agent, and then wait for an acceptance or a counter. Expectations, you'll kind of see a theme as we go through this. Setting the right expectations for your clients will drastically help with the emotional roller coaster of what is buying or selling a house. And sometimes this stuff just comes with doing deals. You're not going to know all this the very first deal. That's why I would say you're better off going and screwing it up and doing deals and fumbling through it, because you learn how to do it. So when you send an offer, I always tell them, hey, expect a counter offer. Don't expect them to accept your offer. Chances are they will counter. You know, and then we'll address things at that point because they're anxious and they're worried. There is a deadline or an expiration you can put on there. I mean, every second of the day, they're thinking about that offer until they hear back. So setting the right expectations that they're going to counter. And then if they accept it, then they're just happy and elated. Okay, so you counter back and forth, you go under contract. What comes next? We have a checklist on Transaction Desk that we'll go through here in just a little bit that tells you step by step what you should do if it's a buyer or if it's seller. You know, of course, you get all the paperwork together, contact the lender, the title company, set inspections up. You know, and the inspections are home, termites, radon, if it's a basement, well, septic. There's other, you know, stuff you can do as far as if you want to test for lead-based paint or if you want to have a mold company come in to test the spores on the air. You can test for anything you want during the inspection process. Ask your clients, you know, what you guys want to inspect and give them the options and let them know. If you're not sure on the price, ask us or call an inspection company and say, hey, I just put a house under contract. We're going to do well, septic, home, and termite. What's the cost? You know, and then you can give them the details. We do have companies that do free termite inspections. I'll tell you on a house that's city water and city sewer, it's probably going to be $300 or $400. A well and septic as well, it's probably going to be more like $600 to $800, depending on the house and the details and all that stuff. So just so you kind of have a ballpark there. Once the inspection comes back, you write up the repair request of what you're asking for, and this will make more sense when we go through the contract. But then the appraisal is done at the same time, and then if you agree on repairs and the house appraises, you go to closing. So that's a real quick walkthrough of the actual process of writing an offer. So questions on that? I'm a phenomenal teacher. Okay, anything else with buyers, Aaron?
No, I don't think so. You know, for your first deal, we're more than happy to come alongside you and help you with the showings and, you know, help you with the contract stuff and sit down and write the offer so you can at least see how that's done. You know, we can help walk you through that because it's a lot of information and it's a lot of things to keep track of. But I'm telling you, like once you've done 2 or 3 of them, you'll fly through it because you'll know the contracts, you'll know the checklist and stuff like that. So,
hey Heather, you've done a couple deals, right? Did you do any training before you did your first deal, just as far as contracts or paperwork or anything?
The most I did was look through the contracts in my real estate class, which made absolutely 0 sense to me. And I kind of like checked out. So honestly, no, but Aaron really walked through the first deal with me. I actually saw it with my first client and he explained to her all of the contracts, which was really good for me because I was kind of learning too, which I knew her well, which also helped. But then the second deal that I've kind of started, well, not kind of, I have done by myself. I like literally just 2 deals. I feel like I understand a lot more and now I am more prepared for those questions when they have them. So yeah, I feel good about it. Only 2 deals in.
Yeah. I mean, literally, yeah, like a couple of deals and you'll have so much more confidence. And this is what I always tell new agents. And I can give you 2 examples. One has done this and one has not. I always tell them go out and just make a big mess of people who want to buy or sell houses. Then we'll come along and we'll help you with those first few deals as far as teaching you how to do it. And literally in a couple, 2, 3 deals, you know exactly what you're doing. You're always going to have questions. You're always going to need help, and we're always going to be here to help. And the other one has tried to learn every detail in the contract and how to list houses and the systems and the process and all this stuff, but has not talked to anybody. And so they might know how to do the contract, but have nobody who wants to buy or sell a house. Just knowing how to do the things doesn't pay you any money. We get paid off people who are actually buying and selling houses. So if you have a 3-hour mental capacity to build your real estate business, 2 hours and 45 minutes needs to be spent on finding people who want to buy and sell a house. Because as soon as you find someone, you will be forced to learn the contracts. Okay, so I'm telling you, don't spend 3 hours learning the systems. I mean, that's something that After everything else is done, get on, at night before you go to bed or something like that. Once you're done with your Facebook, then get on there and, get on the MLS and kind of play around and set up these searches and things like that. So any more questions?
Yeah. And I will say too, like I used a lot of the contracts and the emails and everything for my first deal as reference for my second one. So I'm like, what even is the verbiage for like ordering an inspection or whatever? So then I would pull up that email and like almost type it exactly the same. And what I've done too in my Gmail is I've just like created folders. So I've been like Cairo Thompson. And so then when I'm, on this next property looking for like, okay, well, what do I even do? This title company just sent me this document. What do I do with this? Because I know the first one I would send them to Aaron, I'd be like, am I supposed to have her sign this? I don't even know what to do with this. He's like, no, she'll sign it. At closing, you just need to keep it in your files or whatever. So I've just been like referencing those. So once you have one, you can kind of go back and forth and just kind of see like what to do with all of it.
And we still do that today, by the way. That never ends.
Yeah.
Okay, sellers. You want to go with it, Aaron?
Sure. So sellers are a little bit different beast just because you're handling, getting everything ready to go on the market. That's really the biggest part of it. So a lot of work is done up front. So going on a listing appointment, this is actually a couple different things. You might go on a listing appointment to somebody that you know, and you might go on a listing appointment with someone you don't know. Okay. And what I mean by that is maybe it was a referral, maybe it was a lead that you got, maybe it was a for sale by owner, and you called them and asked if you could, meet with them to list their home. On listing appointments that you don't know, this is probably the only time I would say that we are salespeople. Okay. I don't think that we are salespeople in the fact of like, talking about ourselves and trying to sell ourselves and things like that. But when you're talking to a seller who you don't have any rapport with, maybe like I said, maybe it was a lead or a referral or something like that, there is an element of kind of talking yourself up and selling your services to the seller. And the reason why, as a buyer, the buyer is not paying anything to you to help, for you to help them. Okay. The sellers are paying all commissions. So it's not really that hard to convince someone to help, to let you help them buy a house because it's not costing them anything. And you're bringing all of your expertise basically for free for them. The seller, however, are the ones that are dishing out the money. And so a lot of times you do have to do some selling because of that. So, real basic, 6% is the standard fee that sellers pay. 3% goes to the listing agent. 3% goes to the buyer's agent. So when you meet with someone, you go over a listing presentation. We're not going to go over that. Have we done a training video on that? I don't think we have.
I don't think so.
We need to. Basically, we have a document, a listing presentation document, and it basically just walks over what you're going to do to help them sell their house. It talks about the different marketing options. It talks about, how you handle open houses. It talks about the fees. It talks about your expertise or experience. It covers just a lot of different things in there. And we can give you the PDF of that is in your Alpha Resources folder on Google Drive if you need to reference that. But so you sit down with them and you talk about what you're going to do to help them sell their house. Really at this point, you're just adding value. You are, basically trying to tell them why they're going to pay you thousands of dollars to help sell their house. I mean, that's the gist of it, because all the sellers really care about is that you're going to help them sell their house and how much money are they going to be out to do that. We're not going to touch on this right now, but we've had some instances where other agents agents are going up against other agents to list the home, and those other agents are reducing their commission in order to get the sale. This is kind of an interesting topic that we're navigating. It's not something we really dealt with a lot in the past, but because of the number of agents that are part of the GSBOR now, you're going to get people who are willing to discount their services. And there's there's scripts for that. We'll probably talk about it at another training. So don't worry about that right now. But so you sit down with them, you talk about your experience. Obviously, if you're brand new, you use the team's numbers. You talk about the brokerage that you're a part of. You talk about all of the things. And what I would encourage you to do is sit down, maybe in the next few days, and actually think about what are the things that you are actually adding, like value. What are the value adds for the seller that you're providing? What are the things you're going to do to help them sell their house? And that's going to kind of start your brain going like, what am I actually, like what actually would I provide? Social media stuff. What kind of stuff can you do to help with that? Open houses, door knocking, whatever, and kind of go through that list. And we can help you with some of that. But I would encourage you just kind of think about that stuff. Because the people who don't know that stuff, the first thing they're going to do is say, well, I'll do it for cheaper. And that's their go-to. Like they don't try and explain like, hey, when you pay me 3%, here's where that goes. Now you're going to get some people who will balk at paying you the commission. They're going to say, why do I owe you 3%? There's a couple ways of handling that. Probably one of my favorites, and this is like the most brash way of doing it. But it's kind of a fun thing. So you take 6 business cards and you lay them on the table and you say, okay, these 6 business cards represent the 6% that you're going to pay. So 3% goes to the buyer's agent and you slide those out of the way. Now we have 3%. 1% of this is going to go towards my fees because I have to pay the board of realtors to be a part of this. I have to pay for signage. I have to pay monthly dues. So we're just going to take that away. The other % is going to go towards marketing your house. I spend money on, like I said, signs, open houses, maybe social media ads. And you can talk about some of those things that you are going to spend money on, maybe mailers, postcards, flyers, things like that. So you take that away. And the 1% is for me to feed my family. So which one would you like to take away? And you just kind of leave it and see what they do. Like I said,
Brilliant.
mic drop. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty brash. I've not really had to do that very much. I have had to defend it, but it just really, as soon as you start to understand where that money is going, that you actually are worth the 3% that they're paying you, and that you're spending the money on marketing their home properly, putting the time and effort into selling their home, it will help you kind of navigate that. So hope that kind of makes sense. But so once you do the listing appointment, you agree, you walk. A lot of times what I do is I show up to the house. Obviously if you know them, it's a little bit different. You probably have the sale is already yours. But you walk in, hey, once you show me around the house, I typically try to bring a pad of paper, maybe a pad folio or something like that, to take notes on. So I say, hey, let's go ahead and start. Why don't you give me a tour of the house? As we're walking through, talk to me about the different things that you've done to the house, updates, things like that. Before I've even gone on the listing appointment, I have ran comps on their house. I've pulled up the old listing on the MLS. I've got a value in my mind of what we would list it for before I ever go on the appointment. That's huge because that's one of the things they're going to ask you is how much should I list my house for? So you get there, you walk through the house, you're writing down, oh, okay, you replaced the roof 2 years ago. Okay, great. Blah, blah, blah. You're just taking notes. Walk through the house. Then you say, okay, let's sit down and just kind of talk about what we do to sell homes. And then we can talk about price and all that kind of stuff. So you sit down, you go over the listing presentation. Like I said, you talk about alpha, you talk about, the ways that we market homes, you blah, 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 go through all that. Ask if they have any questions. Okay, great. I typically say, okay, what's your timeline? How soon are you wanting to list your home? Well, we want to put it on the market in the next 30 days. Okay, great. Well, as I was walking through, I noticed that, you've got some chipped paint and, this wall's not looking very good. I would probably try and do that beforehand. Oh yeah, we know about that. We were already planning on doing something like that. I also noticed that on your deck, you have some rotted boards out there. I'd probably go ahead and get those replaced. Those are things that, it's common sense stuff that they already know about, but it shows them that you're actually paying attention and that you're looking, and just kind of solidifies you as the expert. And then you talk about price. And most of the time I try to get them to say the number first. Sometimes they won't, but a lot of times what I'll say is, so obviously I've kind of got a general idea of some other houses that have sold, but do you have an idea of what you're wanting to get out of the house? And so I try to get them to tell me that number, because if I bring comps and it's a $250,000 house and they say, well, we'd really like to get 325, immediately you're like, okay, we're not even on the same playing field. So I've got to navigate what I say next by keeping the listing, and not scaring them off, because what you can do is like 325. Wow, that's way higher than anything else that's sold, and then they're like, okay, well, you're probably not going to help us do it. And the conversation's over. Walls are up. You're done. A lot of times what I would do is I will bring printed off copies of the houses that have sold in the neighborhood that are similar to that one based on square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, whatever. And I will have those ready in my bag. I will also have, a CMA, full CMA in my bag. And so if they come out and they say what those are, a lot of times, and you can bring your iPad, you can bring your laptop and pull those listings up, however you want to do it. But, I might say something like, okay, 325, that, I don't know if you've seen some of the other houses that have sold in the area, but a little bit higher, than what the other ones have sold for. In fact, here, let me show you some of the house. This house, 2 houses down, sold 6 months ago. It actually sold for 265. Now, I know you guys have a new roof and you have, whatever, and you can just kind of ease them into it a little bit. And at the end of the day, if they're really wanting 325 and it's worth 250, that's pretty far off. Now, if you're at 250 and then really like to get 270, well, now, okay, that's still 20,000 off, but that's not, it's not unreasonable. And you can say, hey, that's a little bit higher than some of the other comps, but in this market, there is a chance that we could sell it for that. Okay. But I want to set the expectations for you on this. When I sell your home, I have to sell it 3 different times. Okay. The first person, and probably the most important person that I have to sell this to, is the appraiser. Now, if you're not familiar with the appraiser, this is someone that the lender sends out to take a look at the house and make sure that it's worth what the buyer is paying for it. If the house is worth less than what the buyer is paying for it, they will appraise it low, and basically they won't lend on a house that's worth more than the buyer's paying for it. Okay. So I have to make sure, my job as your listing agent is to make sure that price is what the appraiser would appraise this house at, because, obviously I'm going off of the same kind of comps that he's looking at. There is a chance that some appraisers might look at it and give some credit for things. And so if it's a little bit higher than what the other ones have sold for, I'm fine with that, but I just want to set the expectations. So the first person is the appraiser. The second person is the buyer's agent. A good buyer's agent will pull comps and make sure that house is worth what the buyer's paying for it. Okay. So going back to working with a buyer, once you've looked at all the houses and they're like, this is the one we want to look at, or this is the one we want to put an offer on, then I typically go back and run a CMA on that specific house. I don't do it for all the ones before I show them all the houses, because that's a waste of time. But the one that they're interested in, I pull comps on that to make sure when we write our offer that it's accurate. Because you can't just trust the listing agent. The listing agent might be priced $25,000 higher than any other house in the neighborhood. And your buyer needs to know that. So as a buyer's agent, you need to look and say, hey, FYI, the house right beside it sold for $25,000 cheaper 8 months ago. So once again, that's part of that. But so sitting down with the seller, hey, I got to sell it to the appraiser, I got to sell it to the buyer's agent, and then I have to sell it to the buyer. Okay. So whenever they go online, 95% of buyers find their house online and look at their house online before they ever go look at it. You know that, I know that, Zillow, whatever. So the pictures that we take of the home and the price has to match up enough to where they want to come and take a look at it. Okay. And you could tell them, hey, once we go on the market and we start getting showings, we keep track of this. If we have 7 showings and no offers, we're off on price 3 or 4%. Okay. What that means is we're getting people to come to the house because they saw the pictures and they saw the price and they're intrigued enough to come look at it, but they're not making an offer. That means the house is not matching up with the price and their expectations. So 7 showings, no offers, probably 3 to 4% off on price. If we have no showings, we are way off on price. In this market, if we have no showings, it means we're way off. So we need to adjust that. So you just kind of talk about some of these things, and then you kind of help them discover the fact that, well, I don't want to put it on the market at 270 and let it sit for a month and have no showings and have the emotional roller coaster of whatever. So once a way you can navigate this is you can say, hey, here's the deal. We're a little bit higher than where we should be. If they were stuck, let's say they're stuck on that 270, you can say, I'm more than happy to list your home at this price, but let's go ahead and plan on doing a price reduction after a week and a half. If we don't have a lot of showings and activity and offers in a week and a half, let's plan on reducing the price down to 260 or 259.9, or something like that. And go ahead and get a game plan in place, because then that shows, okay, they're getting a win because they are listing the house at the price they want. But you're also setting expectations that probably not going to sell for that price. So you already have a plan in place for a price reduction. Okay. You want to add anything to that, Adam? Adam's the master at listings, FYI. He won't brag on himself on this, but when he got started, he was on Dan Holt's team, and for 3 years, he was the listing specialist. So basically, he didn't really work with a lot of buyers. They sent him on appointments to get listings. And these listings were all cold listings, meaning back in 2012, 2013, 2014, the market was totally different. Houses were not selling super quick. So what they would do is they would call for sale by owners and expired listings. They would go to those appointments and try to sell themselves to list the home. And so Adam literally was an expert at going in and converting people who were not wanting to pay a realtor, or it had sit on the market for 6 months. So quick little brag on Adam, but.
Thanks, buddy. No, that was good. And this is probably more of like a separate training as far as the actual listing appointment, to really go through all the word tracks that you can take your clients through. What I would tell you is just a few things as far as mindset. List the motivated. I'm fine listing a house that's overpriced based on their motivation. If they're in a situation where they have to sell, then you know that no matter what you go on at, as long as you communicate properly up front, they'll reduce the price to the point where it sells. Okay, so listings lead to buyers. Okay, so you can handle a lot more listings at one time than you can handle buyers at one time. So if you are crunched for time or have another full-time job or something like that, listings are the way to go. Sometimes buyers feel like they're easier to get, which is great. Don't turn a buyer down. But one person could probably handle about 20 listings at one time, and active A buyers, you're probably less than 5 if they're having to go out multiple times a week and see houses. So the nice thing about listings is most of the time you go to the house one time when you list it, and that's it. Everything else can be done virtually, phone calls, text messages, showing, things like that. So so also listings lead to buyers as far as it gives you the ability to do open houses, you get sign calls, things like that. So so listings are a great way to leverage yourself if you have limited availability. And then again, you're not going to get every listing. And one thing I would tell you, no matter who you're working with, buyer, seller, anyone, and this may be hard, but always ask them why they chose you if you get the deal. So if someone says, hey, we're going to use you to list our house, I always say, that's awesome. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, why did you choose me over the other agent? Okay. And when I first started, the thing I heard more than anything was, man, we just loved your excitement. We loved your passion. You know, we felt like you had the energy to get the deal done. And so I would just kind of file that away and know that when I go in on these appointments, my energy and my excitement and my passion for selling their house was the thing I heard more than anything. And I didn't have to know more or have more experience than the next agent walking in. But if I was more excited and more passionate about their house, then that was good. The hard part is when they choose someone else. Asking them, hey, if you don't mind me asking, why did you choose that agent instead of me? I'm always trying to hone my skills and become the best agent that I can, and I would love any feedback that you have. Well, I probably asked that more than the other one, but what I would hear a lot was, well, they just really knew their numbers for our subdivision, or they do a lot of deals in this area. So I would write that down, and then the next appointment I would go on, you better believe I knew the numbers of that house better than anyone else, even the sellers. And so I would do so much research. That's the nice thing about listing compared to buying is you have one house you have to do research on. And so I would pull up the assessor's website. I'd look at neighbors' names. I would look at every price per square foot in the subdivision. I mean, literally, I would know more information about the house than the sellers. And because here's the thing, with technology nowadays, the sellers know every house in the subdivision that's selling and not selling and who their neighbors are, you know, thinking about selling. So you just have to learn from these appointments. And the only way you can learn is if you go on them and if you ask. So that's just a few thought process as far as the sellers. But again, we'll do it. We'll move on here to get into transaction desk for you. Any questions?
Are you guys good for a little bit longer? I know we marked it until 10:30, but are you guys good for a few minutes longer? Okay, cool. Yeah, real quick, the rest of the
on that?
What's that?
So any questions on the listing?
Now we know the secret to making $1 million.
That's right. There it is.
That's right.
Listings,
That's right.
Listings will lead to buyers. So yes, you're right. That is the secret. Listing paperwork, we'll go over that. Listing photos, you can schedule. We highly recommend hiring a professional photographer to go out and take the photos. We've got several contacts for that. You know, going live on the MLS, we can show you how to mark stuff live, you know, and then basically the nice part about once you get it on the market and get the house, you know, showings or under contract, your job's a lot easier than the buyer's agent at that point because you just sit back and wait for the inspections or wait for the appraisal. Or, you know, so it's a lot of, you don't have to do as much work as a listing agent after it goes under contract, which is nice. All right, transaction desk, we ready? Okay, Adam, you gonna share your screen or you want me to?
Let me figure this out. Can you see my screen?
See.
Yes.
First try, huh?
Nice
All
work.
right. Thanks. Okay. So transaction desk, you can get to it a few different ways. Whenever you log into Flex
Your
on
screen
the
just went
MLS.
away, Adam. Now it's a black screen with a blue stripe. There it is.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you log on to the MLS, let me make you guys bigger here. Okay, whenever you log on to the MLS, you can click on Transaction Desk, or you can click on it right here. This is where I have it in one of my favorite tabs. Transaction Desk basically is the system we use for all electronic signatures. All of our paperwork is through here. And basically it's an electronic filing cabinet, if you will. Okay, so this is what your dashboard will look like. You can customize it any way you want to by moving this stuff around. What I would recommend for Transaction Desk and the MLS is to log on and watch all of the videos. There's several tutorials as far as how everything works, how to set up CMAs, how to set up searches, how to create new files, all that stuff. So once you have access to your own, take a day. It'll probably take several hours, and literally just watch all the videos because it'll really help. So here's all your files that you can keep. So you guys want to do a buyer or a seller?
Buyer.
Buyer.
Sorry, buyer.
Is that what everyone said?
Fire.
Okay. So we're gonna act like we just got Hingle McCringleberry as a new buyer, and he is ready to write an offer. So follow along. So we're gonna create a transaction, and we've set this up so it's easy for you. I always name it the address. So 123 Main Street, Springfield. The template right here, is he a buyer, seller, or a referral? So he's a buyer. And then you can import the data from the MLS. So you copy the MLS number and it automatically uploads all the information. If I took one of my listings and uploaded it, it'd have all my information, but just know that you just copy the MLS number and put it right there and then hit create. Okay, so now it's going to take you through 5 steps as far as inputting all the information into Transaction Desk. So if I would have copied the MLS number, this would have all automatically been filled out. It would have pulled the address and the tax record and all that stuff for you. But since I didn't, I'm just gonna okay, so there's the property information, then hit next. You can fill out these details here. You're not gonna really know many of these details, so I just leave the second one blank. And then I go to the third phase, screen, which is contacts. So I'm going to add a contact here. He's a buyer. I believe that's how he spells his name. And then I don't know if that'll let me save that or not. Okay, so here he is right here, Hingle McCringleberry. If there was 2 buyers, I put them both in there. The reason why you do this is because if you fill out all this information correctly, it will auto-populate all the paperwork for you. So for example, the next page is forms. Okay, forms are all of the documents that you can edit. Documents are stuff you have to upload. Okay, it's kind of confusing at first, but so here he is. I automatically uploaded all the information here. So you don't have to fill it out. This is the actual contract. You will have to fill out the paper or the list price. I'm not going to go through the contracts in details. It's just to learn Transaction Desk. So I go through this, I fill it all out, I save it, exit, and it takes me back to the forms. So because we clicked on buyer, these are all of the forms you'll need to help a buyer. Okay, we call them the contracts, the counteroffers, and the buyer docs. So contingency, if they have a house that's under contract it's contingent on closing. Government loan rider, the inspection notice. This is the form you use once you do the actual inspection, that you write up the list of items that the buyer is going to ask the seller to fix. These next few documents are the buyer docs, is what we call them. These are the forms that you'll need to get signed in order to represent a buyer in a real estate transaction. Ideally, you would sign these when you start looking at homes. You want to sign them at the first appropriate meeting. So if they say, hey, we're going to use you to be our realtor, you say, great, I'm going to send over some paperwork for you. Legally, we cannot represent you in a transaction without these forms being signed. And again, go through those forms with them. We can help explain them if we need to. Counteroffer, if you need a counteroffer, here it is right here. A final walkthrough form is the form you sign right before closing. The blue sheet is the sheet you fill out to tell us how to pay you. Cover sheet, once you go under contract, you'll want to fill this out, and this is in there for buyers and sellers. It goes through all the details of the contract, and it's all in one sheet right there in front of you. Okay, and then there's a few new forms at the bottom as far as COVID-19 that the board has released that we've added to the transaction. These are your COVID-19 riders. So once you fill out the contract and everything you need, you go to next. Now this is where you would upload any documents that you need your clients to sign. So for example, seller's disclosure statements, lead-based paint. If you're gonna attach the plat map, anything you're adding to the contract, this is where you would upload it. And just download it to your computer, and then you click on add documents, and there you go. It would be added here, okay? So then you're hit done. Now you're actually in the transaction itself. So let's say you're ready for, it's all good to go, and you're ready for the buyers to sign. So you would start, you click on signing, start a new signing, and I'm gonna say Main Street offer, okay? So now I'm actually in the signing for this file. So I've named it. I'm gonna add the participants. I'm gonna add Hingle, and I'm gonna add myself as the other agent. Now, if I would have put the MLS number in for the deal, then the other agent would be in here as well. So it would automatically populate all that. I always do myself as a remote signer. That way it emails it to me. Again, watch the videos. There's other options as far as how you can do that. Documents, this is where you add all of the documents you want to add to the signing. And these are all of the forms up top here. And then, so if you would have added seller's disclosure statements or plat map, it'd be right here. So for this one, I'm going to add the contract, and let's just say it's a government loan. So I'm going to add that as well. So this is, they've actually updated this in the last day. Anyways, so then I'm going to start signing. This is really cool. You can edit, you can do whatever you want from this screen here. You can add, you can highlight, you can do whatever. So I always go through and let's say, oh shoot, I forgot to add the earnest money. Well, you can go back to the forms, change it, delete it, and then add it, or you can just add a text and say $1,000 of earnest money. Then you have to check this box over here. So just know you can edit and change things however you need to inside of the signing here. So check this out. So it automatically adds the signatures on the forms, okay? It does not on the documents because it doesn't know where you want it to sign on the documents, which is like the seller's disclosures that you would upload. So it's automatically here. All my information's filled out. If I would have put the MLS number in, all of the listing agent information would have been added right here. And then your buyer can sign right here. Now, everything's good. Let's say you got to add that box as well, whatever it is. So all the paperwork's good to go. You hit next and send invitations. It'll email it out to your clients. It'll email it to you to sign. It's a really simple process. They've made it a lot easier since we've started using it as far as how to sign. Literally, it's a big blue box that says start signing. So once they sign it, you'll get an email back saying that all the signatures have been added, and then it'll show up as a document. So I'm going to go to one of my actual transactions here. Okay, so once they sign it, it'll come back with this little lock sign on it. That means they've signed it, and it now shows up as a document in your transaction. Okay, so questions so far on this specifically? Okay, so once you go under contract, we do have a process as far as how to organize it. So right here, this is a document that will automatically upload to every single one of your transactions. So when you start your transaction, this is in there already. And what you'll want to do is print this off. We have more copies in the office if you need it, but you'll want to print this off because this is the checklist that you would follow once you go under contract. And we've tried to make it idiot proof. So if I pretty much did it all, which is how I know it's idiot proof. But okay, so here you go. Now you can, so it says print all documents or organize them electronically. Sometimes starting off, it is easier to print because you might have 3 counter offers, the original offer, the seller's disclosure statement, the cover page. Print them all off, put them in the right order, and then scan them in as one PDF. You can combine documents in here. Hang on. So you can click on several documents and then combine them, and then it'll merge them into one document. Okay, so you can do it all electronically if you want to, but starting off, it is easier to do it, just print them off. But if you're at home or something like that, you can do it just electronically. Organize the documents. Here's the order that you'll want those in. The cover sheet goes on top, then all the counters, the original offer, any addendums or riders, which would be like your government loan riders, contingencies, then the disclosures, etc. So that's the order that you want to put them in. Scan in as one PDF and label it 123 Main Street Contract. Create an offer folder. So these are my folders. I call it contract, inspection, seller or buyer docs, and then trash. Okay? That way it's just organized and it's a clean folder for you. The next steps, I mean, you can read all these here. I mean, it's just literally step by step. Upload that into the offer folder, submit for review, which is you hit the little bell. And then literally, what do you do next? Mark your listing under contract if it's the sellers. If it's the buyers, you order the inspections. If you're the seller, send the CBS code to the other agent. If you're the buyer, send CBS code to the inspector. So CBS code is what the inspectors use on our lockbox to gain access. And you have to get that from the listing agent. And then send the contract to the title company, to the lender, and to your clients. And then just a few reminders here. Earnest money, put the closing date on your calendar. Put the inspection notice deadline on your calendar. Super important. You don't want to miss deadlines. Put it up. I mean, you have to live by your calendar. So put it on there, whatever your system is. Earnest money deadline. Order the home warranty if applicable, and just fill out the blue sheet. So that's what you do the first day you go under contract. Okay. Then we have between contract and closing, and then after closing. Okay. Questions on that? Kind of flew through it real fast, but.
I do have one question. When you you said you could merge documents, like, so if there's like 3 counter offers or whatever, and then you decide to like merge it, does it merge them in order, or do you have the ability to go in and like move that around?
So it will. Let's take these here. So it will merge them in the order that you check the boxes.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay. So if I go in here and I merge these documents, now it's going to create. So what I do is, since I just merged all those documents, I'll move all of these to my trash folder. That way I don't have duplicates. Yeah. Okay. So let's just say I don't do that. So, so here's the new one I just did. I merged those 4 documents together, and they're in the order that I checked. But let's say, oh shoot, I wanted this page in front of this page. So if you go up here to Document Slicer tool, you can remove pages if you accidentally added something you don't need to, or if they sent you back a document that you don't need and it's stuck in the middle of everything, you can cut it out, or you can take this and you can drag it and put that first. So you can go here, oh, I want this page actually up top there. Everything else looks good. I want to get rid of this one. Then you can delete that page just like
Okay.
that. So yeah, you can come in here and you can split documents, whatever you want. It's pretty cool what you can actually do. So you can do it all electronically and not have to print it off that way.
Cool.
Other questions specifically on Transaction Desk here?
Can you show them where to locate the videos on the question down there, in the question mark?
Yep. So I think if you go to the question mark, there is online training. The help videos are short videos that basically just they break it down here. So the forms, it's just quick little videos on how to do the forms, how to set up your actual transaction desk, your dashboard, the documents, how to do the signing. So it's all right here as far as these videos. And that's under the question mark. And that's what I mean. I would click on that, and same thing with Flex. If you go up here to help, video training. I mean, there's tons and tons of videos, short tips. And how to do a CMA. It's a 6-minute video on how to do a CMA. So that's what I would tell you once you get access to the MLS. Okay, what other questions do you have on this, or anything else we've covered so far today? Aaron, anything on Transaction Desk that we need to add or clarify?
I don't think so. Obviously, there's hundreds of scenarios. We can't necessarily train on every single one, but there's pretty much, as a general rule, there's pretty much a form for everything. And when in doubt, find the form to make any changes to the contract and have it signed by all parties. The generic amendment form, that's used quite a bit for date changes and contract price changes and closing cost changes and things like that. But I would just get kind of familiar with the forms, and Transaction Desk is pretty easy to use once you've done it a couple times. And you can always reference back on this video and stuff. But no, I think you did a good job. Sorry, I was typing something. Did you already go over the blue sheet?
I just said where it was. I didn't go over it. I can hop back on there.
No, that's not a big deal.
Okay. Yeah, I can do it real fast. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So on the forms, over here on the right, you can navigate everything, by the way. The blue sheet's in here. It's how you tell us how to pay you. So the address automatically is uploaded. Put the MLS number, the close date, total check amount. It's a big deal here. So does a referral fee have to be paid? So if you're paying another agent a referral fee, this is where you put it in here, okay? And then you just write your name, check amount, $25,000, and then this tells us if you've capped or not. So if you've capped, hit yes. If you have not capped, hit no, and it automatically adjusts for your cap. And then this is the amount you would get at the end when it's all said and done in your check. If there's any special notes we need to know, you can type them in here. The other agents do not need to be on here. This would be if you have a team with several agents and they're splitting that check, with 2 or 3 different people. But pretty simple. And then I will show you this. This is kind of a little trick that we've learned. Okay, so you save it. How do you get the blue sheet over to documents? Because here's the deal. You cannot submit a form to the office. No bells here, okay? So you go to blue sheet, click on the stoplight, copy, move, copy to folder. You can choose the folder that you want it in. And then you jump over to your documents. Boom, there it is, right there. Just like we filled out. And then you hit the bell. Send this document for review. Yes. And then we will give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If it gets a thumbs up, you're good to go. If you get a thumbs down, there's corrections you need to make. Ooh, approved. So you can click on the thumb, and then there will be notes in here of what corrections you need to make in order to get it approved. Make sense?
Makes sense. Okay. Well, we will wrap up then. Hope this helps you guys kind of give you an idea. I have been kind of recording this session, so we will have this video available if you need to come back and reference anything that we've gone over, which is totally fine. But essentially, this just kind of gives you an idea how to build your database, working with buyers and sellers, just to get you off and running. And the best, like Adam said, the best learning experience is just kind of making a mess and getting someone in the pipeline and working through each of these things. That's the best way to learn. I'm a hands-on learner. A lot of you guys are too. It's hard to like sit here and watch a webinar and like know exactly how to do everything. But just go out there, talk to as many people as you can, get a deal going, and then me or Adam will kind of come alongside you and help you learn. And like I said, you never know the scenarios. I mean, this deal that we did with Heather was, had a bunch of crazy stuff that I've never dealt with. I personally never dealt with. And you just would never know. I mean, lender issues and, closing issues and just all kinds of stuff. But it closed. It was a good learning experience for Heather and me. So, but yeah, you'll learn the more that you do. So thanks for taking time on your Saturday morning to jump on here. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like I said, either one of us will help you through it. Compliance wise, contract stuff, meeting with buyers, going on a listing appointment, you name it. And Chase as well. I do want to throw that out there. Chase is, the more that he's around and learning this stuff, he's going to kind of take on more of the, answering just general questions about contracts and things like that. So we're kind of working on that. But any question that you have as well, you can always reach out to Chase. And if he doesn't have the answer, of course, he'll reach out to us. But any other final thoughts or questions before we wrap it up?
Thanks for going over this. This was really informative.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good no church. Well, there's church, but no leaving your house Easter. And we'll probably do another virtual, I don't want to call it training, but basically hangout discussion with all the agents next week. So I'll keep you posted on when we're going to do that. But that's been good. We've done that a couple times, and it's just a good way to connect with all the agents, and we kind of go over relevant topics, whatever it is. I'm sure we'll probably talk about like this reducing commission thing and just how the market is doing and things like that. So, all right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your day.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
See you later.
See ya.